This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions. I'm Diane Silva, and today I have Teri and Eric Bernstein of Road Travels Adventure. And we're going to talk about some of the things that those of us who are empty nesters kind of wish we could do. However, Teri and Eric are starting to do this. So the majority of the show is going to be turned over to them, and I'm going to ask questions as they arise. But for the most part, tell me how you came about this idea, and maybe over a bigger picture of what it is, and then we'll kind of delve into get to the devil of the details.
There's always those, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
You start.
I start. Well, the short and the long of it is a couple of weeks I was sick, home with the flu, and I'm watching YouTube, and I'm watching tiny houses, and I'm going, oh, that looks so cool, that looks so cute. And then it was like this feeling of being not free, because I'm in a house, I'm tied to a house, I'm tied to a mortgage, I'm tied to all the conventions that there are, and in the box. And I'm like fighting to get out of the box. So I'm watching through YouTube, and then I start seeing RVs. And I thought, okay, we could do that, because we love taking road travel. We love going on road trips. In fact, before we got married, he took me on, how many hours was that?
Well, we go straight from San Francisco to Las Vegas, so it's probably like 15 hours.
Wow.
It's like you're going to LA and then you're going.
Okay.
Yeah, he flew me all the way to San Francisco to do this. So it was like this test to see if we could live in a car together, we'd have a good marriage. So that was the first test. Obviously, I passed. And,
so did he then.
Yeah, that's true. So did he. So, but you know, it kind of leans towards the thing that both of us like to do. We like to travel. We like to go out on the road. We love to just drive. To us, that's entertainment. Okay. You know, and so we're at a point now where our daughter's in college. The house is way too big just for the two of us. Yeah. So it's like, okay, sell the house, then what? Get another apartment? Where do we go? And so, you know, we're like, let's just hit the road. Let's just sell everything that we own and go and be untethered.
It's a wonderful idea, and there's those of us who are okay with this, and there's those of us who are a little more resistant. You know, we have other ties, and you know. So tell me more about your process and what you're doing, how you're starting this. You showed me some cool pictures of your books.
The pictures of my books. We have this motto called to dematerialize. Okay. Which is kind of from Star Trek.
Okay, gotcha.
But at least in my mind. But it's really real, because when I moved in with her, right before we got married, I moved from California to Texas. And I was limited by what we could fit in the cars driving across, and then a few more UPS boxes. So when I entered her life, I had a fairly small footprint. Okay. I had been working for a few years with a company where I traveled around, and so I have an experience of living out of a car with all the possessions that I need in the trunk. But of course I had an expense account, so I'm in motels and I'm eating in restaurants all the time. But I did that for almost 2 years before I became a manager there. And I had gotten used to living with less stuff. Now that's not to say there wasn't a storage space that had all kinds of stuff. And when I looked at it after traveling around on the road, it was like, I don't even remember what was in there, you know? Yes. It's just that because we didn't have the ability, I was in a different relationship, and we had both started out on the road together, and then we started working separately. But the stuff was like not connected to me anymore. So when I moved to Texas and we got married, she had furniture, all the stuff that was in an apartment. I just had CDs, books, DVDs, some clothes, and musical equipment. That was pretty much it. But since we've lived in a house, and that's been about 8 full years, or next month it'll be 8 full years, you kind of fill it up again. And in my particular case, I just had this fetish for books. And so now we figure we have between 1,500 and 2,000 books. It fills up 2 walls of a study, floor to ceiling. And of course, these books were bought lovingly and picked on purpose with the idea of at some point in the future, I might actually read them. Most of them I've read like a chapter, flipped through them. Most of them are nonfiction, so they don't require you to read the whole entire thing at once. It's almost as if you don't trust your memory, so you buy a book to be a substitute for your memory.
I understand. Only too
But now
well.
getting back to our travels, the other thing that kind of happens is when people who you know pass away suddenly, who are similar ages. You kind of look, I'm 58, and there is a finite amount of years ahead, and the truth of, you know, your stuff kind of ties you to the past, but we want a new adventure going forward, and so you just can't drag all that with you. So we are in the process of putting a monetary value, since it was our labor over the last 10 years that purchased all these items. I don't believe in just giving them away to people because they were bought with intention, they're useful. It's not like we just fill the house with junk, and we need a way to also finance our trip. So that's part of what we're doing.
Well, that's great. It's got to be to some degree an emotional, there's an emotional component to dematerializing, as you're saying. You know, we go attached to our things as much as we do our people.
Well, I think our things begin to define who we are.
That's a great
You
way
know,
of looking
because
at it.
it's like if you have a collection of sort, you take pride in, like with his books. They're very handpicked. He just, I mean, worked very hard. He didn't just randomly pick books. So he has a very eclectic set of books. So watching him put these books up there and price them and place a value on them and separate from them, in a way, has kind of been really hard for him. Because there is that, now that hope of reading these books is completely removed. And so the choice has to be made. Well, what is it that you want? You know, is it to read the books or is it to have the journey? Because most times in life, we don't get to have both things. So you have to make a choice. And sometimes it's between 2 good things.
Yes,
You know,
I
so that's
agree.
kind of where that's at. For me, it hasn't been quite that hard. The things I own in the house are like pots, pans, knives.
Oh, yeah, we can get rid of those.
I know.
No, that's not
I'm
true, though.
joking.
No, you know,
I am.
she has a whole quilting studio.
I do.
Okay,
I
okay.
quilt. So I have that. But I also intend to take that on the road with me. So I'm not really giving it up, other than giving up that space and my coveted table. That I will be giving up, and I haven't done that yet. But so far there's not a, it's not hard, you know. I think probably the hardest will be after the first sale, when the reality of like, oh wow, we're committed now, you know.
Right, because you don't want to have to repurchase what you just got rid of.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
Oh, I just want to add something that just occurred to me. When I had mentioned earlier about people passing away at a younger age, we had thought about what happens if we pass away, either one or both.
Oh yeah,
What
that was the other
happens
conversation.
to all the stuff that you collect?
Oh, no, back up.
Okay.
Because there was a day we had a conversation where he's like, you know, because I said to him, I said, you know, what's going to happen when you go? You know, what's our plan? You know, type of a deal. And he says, well, these things go to Peter, these things go to Jay. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm not doing that. I'm not going through all of this stuff. I said, if you're going to, you know, send out inheritances, you need to do this in advance. You know, because, you know, and then we started talking about Brittany, because a lot of times we're always together.
Brittany, our daughter.
Yeah, driving. And if, God forbid, something happens to us, now we have our 19-year-old daughter who is now having to figure out what to do with the house. Our stuff, has no idea what we would want given to anybody, and it would just be crushing for her. And so we decided, well, let's just eliminate that issue, and you know that's not one of the things. So And then there was the economic part of wanting to be financially freer.
I can relate to that one.
You know, it's like, we love the house, love my house, my favorite house. And, but to maintain the home, it's another child, you know.
And it is, because you
That
lawn
never
care,
grows up.
maintenance, you know, cleaning, you know,
Yes.
it dirties itself. How,
my
I
gosh.
don't know, but it does.
It does.
You know, so.
Yes, and so there's that time when it's like, oh my gosh, I can't get to all of the cleaning, you know. And so it's too big. It's 3,200 square feet for 2 people. And we looked at each other and go, what rooms do we hang out in the most in? The living room, the kitchen, and the bedroom. And the bedroom, that's it. You know, so it's like the study we're not in, the dining room we're not in, the basement. I mean, you know, we're just not there.
I know.
And it's a house that's beckoning for a family.
So's mine, and, you know, Chris.
For another show.
Yeah, right.
Well, anyway, but that's the point of this, is showing those of us who are resistant that this can be done. And it can be done without all the emotional turmoil that goes along with it. You know, I mean, who wants to go and put their books on electronic books when we already have them right here?
Yeah.
But if there's a book that you really want to read, all you have to do is have an electronic device and you can find it. You know, and you don't have to have that
True.
library. It's different, but it's
Yeah.
it depends how badly you want the book versus how badly you want the freedom, as you talked about.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm willing to read a Kindle online. I'm not willing to read on a Kindle in the house. I do want to
Right.
hold the book, kind of a deal.
Right.
But yeah, it's
But,
But-
you know, even in that world, when I was talking about the sheer volume of books,
Right.
even in retirement, if you were to read just one book a week, that would only be 50 books, well, 52 books a year. So when you think about a collection with thousands, and you think about how many good reading years you have left, at most you're only going to get through 300-400 books, maybe.
Right, but you can recite, instead of keeping them, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
maybe you come up with a group that you exchange books with.
Sure.
he hands
Or
them to
something.
me and said, "Here, read this and tell me if it's good."
So you're the reader.
I read the book. But yeah, but no, it's a lot of going through your things and really evaluating whether or not it's something, what value does it have to you, what sentimental value,
Sure.
you know, that type of a thing. Because, I mean, the other part of it is you can lose everything in a fire. You can lose everything in a tornado. So long as you walk out,
Right.
and, you know, things are things. You know, and right now the things are, they're not wonderful. They're anchors. They're just holding us there.
Weights
And
and-
they're
and
weights.
weights more
And
than
so
anchors.
the desire to be weightless, the desire to get out of the box. You know, it's I've never been a box person, and so I did the traditional box things. I got married. I bought a house. We have a daughter. You know, and I thought I'd be really happy. Oh Lord, no.
You know, and you're one of the first honest people I've met who've really taken a true look at it. And I'm not saying we're all lying,
Yeah.
but sometimes we build ourselves into a corner or into a box.
Yes.
You know, it's like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do, or this is what it's expected of me, or this is what
Yeah.
what do I really, really want? I want freedom. We all want freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and in different phases of our lives, we want different things. So there's a point where maybe you wanted to be married and have kids.
I have no problem being married to my husband. I love my daughter. I love my house.
Right.
But who I am as an individual, it is very common for me to sell everything I own and take off on a trip. So I sold everything I own and I took off for Europe for 6 months in my 20s and backpacked through Europe. Came back, did the same thing, went to South America, came back. So that's a normal thing in my life, to collect things, to sell them, to go travel.
So you
So-
just keep going through different phases is basically what
Yeah.
you're doing. Okay, I've traveled. I'm good with that for now. No,
Yes.
I want to go ahead and I want to experience a different portion of my life, or a
Right.
different part of me.
Yes, exactly. I never owned a home, never lived in a home, so I wanted to own one. I own one, beautiful home, love my home, been there, done that. You're ready to move on.
Yeah, the side note is in the home ownership, anything that goes wrong, everything seems to be in the thousands of
Yeah.
dollars to
Yes.
fix it or replace
And
it.
I've learned a lot, you know, I've done a lot of it myself, and, but, you know, it's like I've gotten to a point, I'm not able to have the ease of doing it like I would have done in my younger years.
Right.
You know, so I struggle with that, you know, the physical strength, trifocals, you know, things that you don't think of, that when you try and fix the sink, you have to look through here. And you just can't crick your neck and your head all the way up, and it's just like, fine, give me somebody in their 20s who doesn't wear glasses.
Right.
You know, kind of a deal.
Or you get on the floor and you need help getting up.
I'm not there yet.
Well, no, we are there yet. Because
No, no, I'm
no, I'm going to explain a little anecdotal story. Camping.
Okay.
We've done camping. We had, our last great big trip was spending about 8 days in the Black Hills, and that was over 4 years ago.
Okay.
It was the first time we had ever been there. What is a problem is when you're large, older people, is getting up off the air mattress in the morning.
Oh, God, that was
So you
funny.
kind of need your cooler, which should be outside, as your leaning post to get up. And interestingly enough, as we look at different types of camping vehicles to purchase, because another kind of segment here, but you know, you have what they call Class A motorhomes, the big giant buses, bedroom and bathroom in the back, a full kitchen with a regular
Right.
refrigerator, but starting at about 120,000 and going up to like $500,000 or more.
Another house.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so the question became is, what is it that you need? What do we need? How much of a home-like environment do we have to recreate? And we went and looked at the Class A's. We went into the buses, and it was kind of like, wow, this furniture is really uncomfortable. Or it's really dark, because it's like dark wood. And it's like, really? It's like, it's a tunnel. Why are they not putting white wood in here?
Sure.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that kind of a thing. So, and then we're now down to the point, we've gone through all of them, down to what they call a teardrop, which
Okay.
is just, it's like the shape of
It's
a
like
tear.
a hard shell tent.
Yeah, it's a hard shell tent. It has a bed on the inside. You flip open the back, and it has a kitchen there.
Okay.
And it attaches to the back of the car. And so the other
And
thing,
it can attach to virtually any car. You don't
Yes.
really have the weight kind of
Okay.
issues that
Yes.
you do with a trailer.
yeah. Well, that was where we was like lots of conversations of, well, how much space do we need to live in? You know, because he tends to stay up really late. I tend to go to bed early. He'll stay up and play guitar. Well, it doesn't work if we're just in one little room.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, how do you make those accommodations and such? And, you know, we haven't figured it all out, obviously, but we have found the bigger it is, may not necessarily be where we start.
Okay.
You know, we're like at a point where we're really okay just pulling the tent out and going back and doing a tent. But the idea, like he was saying about not always so easy to get up early in the morning, that the teardrop, you just, you know, you lean out, put your feet down and stand up.
Well,
Really nice.
well, what we've also found, and again, YouTube really does revolutionize television, because you're still spending time watching the box, but the sources of material that you have is so eclectic. It's like unbelievable what's there. But even within the world of camping or RVing for life, you could spend the rest of your life just going from one video to the other. Just people are posting. And one of the things that we found is that we want to see a lot.
Right, I agree.
And so part of seeing a lot is not really dragging a lot with you. In other words, when you think of these big buses, they get 6, 7, 8 miles a gallon if you're lucky. Well, that's going to limit. Plus, you can't even ride in a lot of places that you might want to go because they're just too big, and they
Right.
don't really have the oomph
Yeah.
to do it.
Well, I think the other part of it too is we looked at who are we? What are we going to do on the road? We don't fish.
Right.
We don't hike. we don't do any of those like outdoorsy kind of things.
Right,
I'll do
okay.
them more than he does, but more in the sense where we're city folk. Give me a good museum.
Okay.
You know, give me a good place that is different, that's unique, that's, you know, not every other city has. I want an experience. I want to do things. And so we started looking at, well, if we're going to be constantly going, you know, somewhere around cities near and about, we can't be in this Class A.
Right.
Because you just can't park that in, you know, on the street anywhere. That's a huge deal. And so then you start looking, then you want to separate. You know, you want to have your car, you park your thing there, and so it's just kind of like, well, how big does it need to be?
Right.
You know, so but it's that whole, because we looked at just moving into a van.
Okay.
you know, getting the Class B and living in a van. But our size dictated
I understand.
Well, not only
what
that,
you can get into.
when we say class, when you see these big Sprinter vans, so there are professional companies that appoint them with queen-size beds, little teeny bathrooms, 2-burner kitchens, but they also cost $100,000 if you
Yeah.
buy a new one. And because we are not mechanically, at least I'm not mechanically inclined, I'm afraid of buying something too tremendously old that needs work,
Right.
because that's the other thing. If you don't have unlimited cash and something breaks down, you're
Yeah.
really in a big bind. We like our van now. We have a Toyota van. We even think of it when you pop out the seats that it's another living space.
Right.
That's how
Yes,
we've
that's the
imagined
plan.
this teardrop, because we can sleep and cook out of that. But if it's a rainy day and if we didn't have the 2 middle seats, well, you can put a 32-inch TV on a milk crate, sit in the
plans to
back
do.
seats, you know, and, you know, have a
That's
little.
your living room.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Or-
in our living room, a lot of times we're watching TV anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Or you want to go to bed early, you go to the teardrop, you go into the van and play your guitar.
Exactly.
And you still get the soundproofing, so you're not bothering other people in the campgrounds or in
Sure.
wherever. I,
So it's
I'm,
like,
I mean, I'm with
yeah,
you.
but I mean, even within this world of RVing, because we went and looked at all of these campers, and there was only one that we looked at and went, oh, this is doable, and only because I'm going, I can rip that thing out, I can take that out, I can put this. It was stuff that I could pull out
Right.
without it being a great expense, because they're not cheap, and to buy something that then you're going to pull it all apart really is counterintuitive to me.
Right.
So we found one that we think we like, and you know, but it's small, and you know, so.
And this
we're
also
cool.
stems from the bed. When we got married, when we got married 10 years ago, actually no, 11, going on 12 years. So obviously new couples should start out with a mattress. Well, we hung on to it for a long time. All of a sudden, we're not really sleeping as well as we used to. And people say, you know, you really got to replace these mattresses, and you don't think about it. But the reality is you do. And so now we've replaced our bed. But now if we go into a trailer, we want to take our bed
Yeah.
with.
Okay, so, you know, that's the one thing, material thing you want to keep, so you have
It's
to
not
accommodate.
even a material; it is a necessity.
Okay, gotcha.
Because when
Understand.
we look at these mattresses, they're about that thick,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe some of the others, and it's on a plywood.
Right.
We're looking at doing this every single day. It's
Right.
not a weekend thing where, oh, I can tolerate it. This is our life. And so we need to be able to wake up feeling refreshed and feeling
Sure.
good. So they're coming. So the size of the trailer is dictated by the bed.
And that's good.
Yeah.
You gotta take care of you. And I'm thinking about this going, okay, people with campers, you know, they're gonna start paying attention, you know, this is what we need to adjust to. Maybe make them so they're easily outfitted and,
Sure.
you know,
I wonder why
personalized.
they don't. Yeah, I wonder why they don't.
I don't know.
You know, it's an interesting thing, but yeah. So it's been fun going through all of the trailers. I have to admit that.
I'm excited. I know we're coming to the end of this episode, but I want you guys, because I think this is great to follow you guys and to see
Oh,
where you
cool.
are in your process. You know, I'm excited. I'm kind of living vicariously
Sure.
because I'm not at a point right now where I can do this, but
Yeah.
it's a dream.
And that's what everyone who we see on YouTube says, that they are, I mean, there's evidently a big culture of people who do this. I've heard people say that if you go into the average campground today, maybe only 25% of the people there are actually families that are camping. Another 25 or 30% are people who are working in an area.
Okay.
And so they
Yeah.
need to be there, and it's cheaper than a motel. All the rest are people who've given up bricks and sticks, as they like to call houses, and are, you know, they might be work camping, like, so they'll work at a campground for 2-3 months, then they'll move someplace else. Those kind of people need the bigger rigs because they're not driving all the time. But we want to, like, I personally, and I'm talking her into it, to circumvent the whole country the first year,
Well, that would be kind of
you
cool.
know, and then the second year do the center. But
You know, and who knows how you're going to feel later, but the point is it's honoring this phase, and I hate to use the word phase, but honoring this part of your life.
That's a transition in my life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
a better word.
there's all kinds of transitions.
And like
it's just a
people-
matter of which
yeah.
ones you want to embrace and how big you want to make the transition be. I mean, we could have just said, okay, well, we'll sell the house and go into a smaller house. And that would have been the transition. But it wouldn't have satisfied my need to be out there and doing different things and meeting new people and just,
Experience.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, retirement comes way too late in life
Gosh, yes.
to do a lot of things that
Yeah.
require more physicality. So,
Well, and that's kind of part of it. We had a family member who we lost, and he was down in Hawaii purchasing his dream house and found out he had pancreatic cancer. And within 5 months, we lost him.
Oh, wow.
So it was like he finally got to his dream, and it wasn't to be. And we look at each other and go, okay, we could wait till the proverbial Social Security comes in and see what we could do, but why? What's the point?
I understand though that, because you get to the point where you're almost fearful to do this kind of thing. It's like, oh well, if I do this, people say, well, if I follow my dream, I'm going to die. Well, it's not because you're following your dream you're going to die. It's your time is up.
Yeah.
We didn't do it soon enough.
Exactly.
So I commend you guys so much for taking and honoring your dreams and taking the chances that some of us aren't ready to take, but at least you're showing us where we are. So thank you very much. I hope you guys come back, and we're at the end of our segment. Thank you. Thank you for watching Positive Momentum TV. We'll be following Eric and Teri and see how they do. And I'm sure we'll have a website that you can go and check their adventures out as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Positive Momentum TV is brought to you by Movement Solutions.